Ladies and gentlemen, I have a confession to make. Let's start off with this. I am FX Jared A, and I am a funded trader from Rocket 21, and I am funded $300,000. That's a good thing to say, but I want to say January was the biggest test ever. So before we jump into January, we honestly have to start in December. Rumors, myths, they all go around, and traders say that trading in fourth quarter, aka basically November or December, is the worst trading conditions to ever trade in. And I could honestly agree, but I can really only say trading GJ wasn't that bad, but trading US pairs could potentially be that bad. And I can see why they can say that, because they can move the US pairs can move 40, 50, 60 pips in like 30 minutes. While GJ, it can do that, but it doesn't do that every day, because the US typically has news pretty much 4 times a week, Monday through Friday, every week. So because of that, I can definitely see why Q4 can be Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Christmas, all these holidays, plus election, this, that, politics, whatever. I could see why Q4 can be that bad. But January? Oh, I think we got some explaining to do. My biggest trading test so far out of the 4 years I've been trading was January 2024. We're gonna start off with the first week. The first week, I didn't really trade too much due to the fact that I just got my 200K account funded, and I think I was coming off a withdrawal on the 100K account, so I couldn't trade it until everything was confirmed. But I just got my 200K account fully funded, literally passing the account days before the next year has begun. That was a real fulfilling feeling to complete a challenge that you've been wanting to complete for years now. But let's start off with the 100K account, because I do combine these numbers now since they're both funded. What I mean by that is anything that's blue or red for the day, I combine both accounts because I can withdraw them now. It's not like I'm trying to get funded here and this is funded. No, these are combined numbers now because they work together to go in my bank account, okay? So let's start off with the 100K account. Again, like I did say, I didn't really trade week 1. So week 1 was scratched off the list. Week 2 started off very slow, and I was trying to ease in on both accounts because now they're both funded, and I don't see why I keep the same numbers, but we'll get to that in a minute. So week 2 was pretty much a solid break-even week with the 100K account due to the fact that it was a pretty normal week. There's nothing wrong with breaking even for the week. I only made $400 with $300 in commission. Break even with the numbers I use, so I'm going to say that's break even. Yes, that can be a very small little paycheck if you want, but again, it's break even for the numbers I use. As you see here, the 8th was completely break even. The 9th was a $1,500 win. The 11th was a $2,000 L, and then the follow-up day was a $1,000 day. And the only reason I took that is to break even on the account to roll over to the next week. So the next week does consist January 15th through the 19th. And also that was pretty much 2 weeks of being completely break even, because prior we made $300 and this week we lost pretty much $400. Most of it going to commission. So as you see on the 15th, we took a $1,700 L. And as you see, these numbers are getting slightly bigger because I'm supposed to be risking $1,000 on this account. And I started to get a little carried away with the stop losses, only because GJ has been moving very differently in January. And this is why I feel like it was my biggest test yet, because I went down in down draw 50% total for both accounts. 50% for both of these accounts. So that is, I was down $5,000 on the 100K account, and I was down $10,000 on the 200K account. Let me get to that in a minute, because again, I broke even every single week. of January. So the 15th was a $1,700 L. The 16th was a $1,200 L. The 18th was a $100 win. So I did end up breaking even. Mind you, the commission on these trades is basically $70, or it's either $40 or $70. And for the last day of the week of the 19th, I did have a $1,800 win, putting me back at break even pretty much for the whole entire account. So the next week, that includes January 22nd through the 25th. This was the week that actually put me down heavy. Let me explain. So there was a few trades that actually ended up testing my whole might, my whole skill in trading. So this account, again, like I said, did end up going in down draw of $5,000. Mind you, I don't like being down that much. In most of these trades, I ended up closing either early, so I took a small loss, or I ended up actually taking a big loss. When you see these small losses, it's the simple fact that there's a 50-50 chance that I could have won or lost, so I closed my loss. One thing I'm going to start doing is letting the trade close itself, because I continuously am doing this if the trade is still running with over 6 hours. So as you might know, my trading hours do start at 2 a.m. Because they start at 2 a.m., I do start to trade in London session if I do find a position. If I find a position in London session, I do allow my trades to roll over to New York. And if it rolls over to New York, I'm expected it to be in profit and or trying to, go into profit. Pretty much 75% of these trades ended up stalling for like 7 to 8 hours, allowing me to wake back up, seeing my trade still at break even and or a little bit of down draw. And that definitely irritates me, because this been going on all of January. And mind you, I know it's just a phase in the market, what it could potentially do, but at the moment, London session seemed super invalid. Mind you, I know New York has more volume, more opportunities to potentially push it into profit around that time. But at the time I was trading in January, all of January, most of it seemed like it was actually not doing anything in London. London seemed like it was just stalling for like the whole session. And then once New York came about, it typically pushed because news gave it a boost, not really shooting it in any other opposite direction. It typically gave it a boost of a quick spike. It normalized itself, and then it went back into the direction that I wanted to. Now, this typically ended up being a few hours after I closed the position at a small loss and or break even. And it's been getting under my skin, because the only reason why I close these positions, and I'm telling you why, is because I get emotionally attached after being in a trade for 7 hours of installing. And that's only because I actually started making money, and I actually started this strategy and started making money within 3 hours of being in a position, not 7 to 8 hours to 2 sessions or 3 rolling over to Asian session after 5 o'clock. I don't trade like that. And if I do, I don't mind being in profit and it does that. I will actually hold it if it's like 20 pips in profit. Just show me you're making progression. And I know that is a personal thing. The market doesn't care about personal preferences. It's doing what it wants to do. So that is one thing I'm trying to unlearn and let my trades run at stop loss, compared to me closing it and closing it and closing it and having that satisfaction that I'm saving myself, which I know I'm not long term. So January 22nd was not a pretty day. And honestly, the 22nd and the 23rd was pretty much the same day, because I just ended up taking a trade, rolling over to the next day, and it was the same exact setup, and I ended up switching the biases again. So after the 2 break-even weeks, I was getting heavily irritated and honestly a little emotional, emotional decision making, because I knew that I had a withdrawal available on the 100K account, and I was just trying to make even like $1,000 just so I can like, all right, cool. You know what I'm saying? But no, the market has continuously pushed me into a point where I've been getting irritated to close my trades early. And that's the problems of being funded. Yes, you can do whatever you want, but when you know you have an opportunity to do something great, it irritates you when the market wants to BS. So on the 22nd and the 23rd, which was basically the same trading day for me, I ended up losing around $3,000. That is not the way I trade. And that is not acceptable the way at all. In fact, I risk 1% of the initial balance to potentially make 2 to 3%. So why am I losing 3% of the account knowing that I'm not supposed to be doing that? What am I doing? I really wanted to take a break. Like, give me a break. Give me one day to rethink and recoup myself so I know how to do this correctly. So on Thursday of that week, I did end up making $4,700 to recoup all of my losses, but the commission ate my profit away per usual, and I ended up breaking even slightly that week of $263 rather than being in down draw over $3,000. So now we go into the last week of January, rolling over into the next month, which is February. The trading week did consist of January 29th through February 2nd. And to start off the week, here we go again, took a small position to actually break even the account of $312, allowing the account balance to be at $100,000 once again. All fine and dandy until the next day comes about, which was another position that could have ran if I'd have let it go. And I ended up breaking even of $42 on that position. Rolling over to a few hours later to a new trading session. After 5 o'clock, I seen a position a little earlier than I should be taking, breaking my rules once again, losing $400. And as you can see, if you break your rules and you don't listen to yourself, you will lose. And there are going to be times you win, but if you do win, you're basically stroking your own ego and allowing yourself to break your rules on purpose to make some money. That's not ideally what you want to do, because long term that's not going to work, and I quickly learned that in January. So on the 31st, we ended up taking a normal loss, because the week 1, week 2, and week 3, I actually learned my lesson to not close your trades early. Let it run, let it do its thing. You know what I'm saying? Leave it alone. Rolling over to the next day, well, I made it back with a 1-to-1. Whoop-de-doo. I think that trade actually reversed after I took profit. I think that's the case. Again, taking profit of whatever that makes sense, that's a 1-to-1, 1-to-2, 1-to-3, 1-to-4. If you have your reasoning, that's a different story. But when you want to cut your losses short for a valid reason, that's fine. But if it's just because you are making this a habit, that is not good. That's where discipline and responsibility kicks in. And I call that being real with yourself. If I'm being real with myself and cutting a loss short, I'm not looking at the market after that mistake. Typically, on a 90% level, when I am real with myself, I really do tell myself, you're going to be wrong if you let this run. And only because of the candlestick confirmations that I'm seeing. And I know the market can do anything it wants to do, but in their moments where you're actually real with yourself and you've seen this time and time again that this is going to do this if you don't get out now and take your small loss, I'm typically right on that. But when I let my emotions run and the candlestick confirmations are telling me like, yo, it's going to go in down draw, but you have to wait. And that's just experience. Like, if you know the difference between the market telling you to get out because you're going to lose more money, and if you let it run in a little bit of down draw, you'll be fine. You gotta know the difference. That's something you can't teach. I'm gonna be honest with you. Don't get it twisted. Sometimes you will be wrong, but there is a high chance that for me journaling all of this on TradersView, I'm typically right when I'm real with myself. So I'm going to continue to have that trader's intuition, which is just a feeling and a knowing that price is going to reverse and you're cutting your losses short. I don't have a problem with cutting losses short, but I do have a problem with emotionally cutting your trades. I have a problem with that, and that's, you have to know the difference. You gotta know to know. So with the last few days of that week, I ended up making $200 and $700 to end off the January horror story and just end off the week with $800 profit and actually having the last laugh and having a very small withdrawal of $460. Here's a certificate here. So we are now starting with the 200K account. The 200K account is the account with the much bigger numbers and the numbers that you can honestly change your life with. So let me show you. The first week, which is week two, that's the week I started trading, which is the 8th through the 12th. I started off basically fighting my own analysis, fighting my emotions, did not know what the market specifically wanted to do. So I got in, got out, got back in, got out, and I'm like, you're too attached. Now, and I really realized that because I'm just like, what is wrong with you? So I just got out for the day, done, boom, whatever. The following week is the same week that I had that $3,000 loss in for the smaller account, which is the 100K account. And this week, it actually came up to an $8,000 day. First, it was a $6,000 day, then it was an $8,000 day. So I ended up going in down draw. So that week actually started to show that I was being too emotional with my trades, and this week definitely proved it, because starting off the week, it was a $3,300 L. I should be risking $2,000. What am I doing? So I'm learning from my lessons. I'm realizing my lot sizes are too big. And I am coming down to the realization that I want a really good stop loss, but also I want to make good money. So to combat that is you have the potentials to make $10,000 a day with two combined accounts. People make $50 a day because they have a $14 hour job. $1,000 day is not good enough for you. So I gotta come to the realization and be real with myself. If I'm going to risk 1% of the initial balance, risk 1%, because you can potentially still make, with both accounts combined, I can make $6,000 a day. On a 1 to 2 with a really reasonable stop loss that should be normalized for me. So on the 22nd of January, we lost around $3,000. Again, and I don't know how that this lot size was much bigger, but yet I know how this lot size is much bigger, but on the other account, I lost $3,000 on the same day. So this is the first day I lost $6.7 thousand with commission. This was the start of the real test. So the next following day, I took another loss. Fantastic, because I was following my emotions, and believe it or not, I actually could have won Monday and Tuesday. It actually would have been pretty normal. Actually, it could have been TP maxes actually, but I didn't follow my rule because January was nothing but an emotionally driven trading month. I will 100% say that. So the following day, I ended up losing over $5,000 plus commission, and that total week ended up being that total week of the 2 days I've traded ended up being a $14,000 loss with the two combined accounts. And that was the biggest test I ever came across, is if I could bring this back. So on the 24th, remember, I took a break, which was a Wednesday, and the 25th was a Thursday. Now this Thursday, I was actually looking at a beautiful GJ setup, allowing me to sell and follow this plan as long as I can execute it. If I can execute this plan, I can make my profit back and then some. And I'm glad I only made my profit back because price retraced hard. So on the following day, I saw this opportunity to sell GJ, and it started off in London session. So when I pressed sell, I had the idea of, let's only do one position. You have this is your accounts. You're in no rush to bring it back. That was the initial thought. And price, as soon as I pressed sell, price retraced, per usual, GJ's fashion. I found another opportunity to scale in. I don't mind scaling in. Scaling in is actually the way to really maximize a trade, to actually really allow yourself to take that normal take profit 3 rather than take profit max all the time. It allows you to actually grow your account at a really rapid rate. It's just scaling in. In this situation, I actually scaled in to fill in the gap. What do you mean by that? So I used the 14 lot with this account, and I used a 7 lot for the 100K account. So to fill in the gap, to make it pretty much an even number, for the 100K account, I used a 3 lot, so 7 plus 3 is 10. So now it's a 10 lot. And then for this account, I used a 6 lot to make it a 20 lot. So it's pretty much half. The 200K account is basically double what the 100K account is going to make. There is no differences in the numbers, and that's why both accounts were literally down 50% before this day. With the 200K account, I did end up making, before commission, I made a little bit over $10,000. But it was a big day, a very big day, in fact, that it actually really helped put the account right back where it was. So that week, we only made $200 because of commission. It was almost $1,000. And for the last week, we only did a pretty half break-even week of $181. So basically, to sum up this whole video, the whole first 3 weeks of January was pretty much break even. In the last week of January, rolling over to the 2nd of February, was very small profit and a very small withdrawal for the accounts in the numbers for sake. It was the last laugh at the end of the day. And again, I'm not going to keep saying that because I feel like the market keeps clapping back at me every time I say that. But at the end of the day, I actually, on week 4, ended up bringing back my accounts to initial balance, to slight profit, and having a withdrawal, which is very relieving because January was the biggest test I ever had in the market. And I never want to go through that ever again. So I learned a lot. And if you learn something, if you can take away from that, I hope you can, because I don't want to make this mistake. I'm not anticipating making this mistake ever again. And potentially, hopefully see more blues than red. So I'm not anticipating on messing up on purpose. I'm only want to move forward. So I'll see you guys in the next video. My Instagram handle is down below, and do whatever you please. Oh, my withdrawal just hit. See you guys later.